Hey guys, Pie Guy Rules here, and it's been quite a while since I've been in front of the camera now, isn't it? But yeah, I'm here to talk about the Fairly Odd Parents movie, Grow Up, Timmy Turner. I decided to be on the screen for this rant because it's more of a review than anything, and I don't know, I think film reviews are better suited on camera. Anyway, excuse me if I look over here a little bit, I have my notes on my computer. Alright, I gotta admit, I came into this movie really wanting to hate it, because I didn't know much about it, right? All I knew about it was I had read a while back that they were going to be putting, in theaters from last I checked, a live-action Fairly Odd Parents movie with Drake Bell as Timmy Turner, and the plot would be that he's 23, still in high school, still in elementary school, and still with his fairies, and Tootie comes back in town and she's hot, and he has to choose between her and his fairies. That's all I knew, and I mean, from what I knew, it sounded, I don't know, just unnecessary. I guess that's the word for it. I mean, really, who would have asked for a live-action Fairly Odd Parents movie? Of all the cartoons to make into live action, Fairly Odd Parents is not one that I would pick, just because of the amount of, I guess, special effects that you'd need. And that's something that I'll be talking about quite a bit during this, is the special effects problem, because it was quite a problem. But anyway, I was alerted many times through YouTube that it was actually going to be on TV, and when it was going to be on. Unfortunately, I missed it the first time, but I caught it like the second or third time it aired a few days later. So sorry if I'm a little bit late on this, but anyway, so I saw it, and I gotta be honest, it wasn't quite what I was expecting. The first thing, the first thing that I need to say is that you can't take this so seriously. I was willing to go into it and take it too seriously. You can't take it too seriously because, quite honestly, part of the fun is just how cheesy it is, how the fact that it is a cartoon, but in live-action form. Case in point, not a few, actually, a lot of actors, a lot of the characters in this are so overly hammy and overly cheesy, and I'll get into who later, that it's kind of delightful. It's kind of, I don't know, got its camp value, and it's just kind of like so bad it's good, or so over-the-top scenery chewing that it's really funny, and it's intentional. And I mean, that's good. I'm glad they didn't try to make it serious, because it really wasn't. Honestly, some of the other Fairly Odd Parents movies were taken more seriously than this. Channel Chasers, Abercatastrophe, those are like played a lot more straight. This is played a lot more for laughs than anything. So going into it, after like 10 minutes of it, I was like, alright, I'm gonna need to lighten up, I'm gonna need to, knock that critical block off my shoulder and say, look, I'm gonna critique it fairly, but I'm gonna critique it as, a 1 hour made-for-TV movie about a really goofy show and a really, really goofy subject in general, and I need to lighten up a little bit. So, after doing that, I'm still gonna complain fairly about what was wrong with it, but I'd like to have you know that I'm not gonna take it as seriously as I might. If it was in theaters, I might take it a lot more seriously. So all right. That said, the first thing that I'm gonna get into is the budget and special effects. They were horrible. For Nickelodeon, for a TV movie, they weren't bad, but like I said, the subject matter called for a good special effects budget, which is why I was kind of a little bit excited at the fact that it was going to be in theaters, from what I thought. But no, it wasn't, and it shows. Cosmo, Wanda, and Poof look terrible. I'm sorry, they do. Okay, they're watchable. It's not the absolute worst thing, but really, never did I once believe that these were fairies in the real world. No, they looked like computer-generated animation 100% of the time. They looked like a cheesy special effect. They acted like they were made of Play-Doh. Proportionally, they seemed a lot smaller than they should be, considering they're usually the size of Timmy, and even though Timmy's grown up, they're still relatively small. And that really bugged me. Then the first thing you see is Cosmo and Wanda poof up pirates for Timmy to fight for his birthday. It's his 23rd birthday at the beginning of this. And, he fights the pirates, but I don't know. Something about the choreography and the pirate, it seemed I know I talked about how some of the cheesiness is good and the overacting is good, but it just seemed a little bit too cheesy, a little bit too, poor special effectsy, a little bit too cheap, I guess. I don't know. So that was something that did bug me throughout the entire movie. The special effects were definitely not what they needed to be to pull off something like this. However, they were watchable and, not bad for a TV movie standards. And if this were made like 5 years or 10 years ago, I wouldn't know what they would do. And to be constructive in my criticism, I'm going to say if I were to do it, if I had that budget, I'd just have them be cartoons, like superimpose, do that blending of cartoons and live action. Because at least then they would look like Cosmo and Wanda and Poof, and at least then it would be, a little bit more, I don't know, I guess they wouldn't fit in more, but it would look a little bit familiar, and I honestly, I did not like the CG, the CG on them in general. Like, the way their mouths moved didn't quite rub me the right way, even for bad CGI effects. It didn't really quite feel right. So I would have done it cartoon, I would have, animated it, but whatever, forgivable. So one of the things that actually surprised me, and this is actually a really good moment of genius in the movie, is that Poof stayed the same age. Poof doesn't look any different, and Poof still can't talk at the beginning of this movie. And I'm wondering, and I'm like, it's like 12 years has gone by. How come Poof still doesn't talk? But then, it hit me. Fairies live hundreds of years, so theoretically, Poof is going to be a baby for a while. And they even touch on it later about how long fairies live. So I thought that was kind of a genius, a little genius bonus in there. And I think it kind of speaks for what the movie is trying to be. It's trying to be a love letter to its fans. Now, whether it succeeds in this, or it succeeds in completely tearing apart the Fairly OddParents universe, I'll get into that. It's debatable. The ending, very debatable. Alright, so, at one point, they say gigawatts. Or, no, I'm sorry, gigawatts, which I think is an homage to my favorite movie, Back to the Future, maybe? Alright, plot-wise, here we go. Basically, Timmy turns 23. Like I said before, the thing with Tootie still remains, but the bad guy is an oil tycoon-y type guy, megalomaniac guy who hates the environment, wants to tear down trees, wants to just get rich, and, has apparently had a bad childhood because he was so rich, and wants the fairies, Crocker's the one who introduces him to the fairies and says, look, you need the fairies to do the evil plan. By the way, spoiler alert, you need fairies and you can get your wish, and blah, blah, blah. And so he ends up, capturing Cosmo, Wanda, and Poof and using their magic against Timmy, and all sorts of things occur. I'm not going to go into too much detail with it, because again, if you've probably seen this, if you care, I do advise you to see it. I do. I really do. It's not one of those so bad it's, horrible. And it's not even really bad. You're going to take it different ways depending on who you are, but it's worth a watch to see, if you're going to enjoy it or not, because it's a movie that you might enjoy, Depends. Again, very, very much your mileage may vary. Alright, so I'm going to get into characters here. Plot-wise, really nothing about the plot rubbed me the wrong way until the very end, and I'm going to talk about the ending at the ending of this. So anyway, character-wise, alright, Drake. Drake as Timmy. I really have no complaints. I mean, I don't know. I thought this would be a little bit more blasphemous than it was, but Drake as Timmy was alright. He he wasn't spectacular. He wasn't like, oh my god, there's such a Timmy Turner. He kind of played it like Drake. Drake from Drake and Josh, or Drake from anything that Drake has done. He kind of felt really Drake-ish. But other than that, because it is a little bit older of a Timmy, he still acted like a kid. He still had fun. It was alright, Again, there's nothing particularly good about it, but then again, it didn't really ruin anything. It wasn't like, oh my god, that's horrible. This is the worst, he's the worst actor ever. He looked like Timmy. He looked like he could be Timmy, so it worked. It worked. Could have been worse. Timmy's dad, delightfully, is the same voice actor that voice acts for his dad. I know this because he also played Gordy the janitor on Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. So it's funny because you got to hear the same voice. I'm not sure I don't think Timmy's mom was the same voice. But yeah, his dad was the same voice, so, it was really funny, and to see him just, have that voice and be that person in real life, it just kinda, I don't know, it made me happy. He was one of the really hammy actors, and he had to be, because he was exactly in character as Timmy's dad. It was really believable as this is Timmy's dad. This is a cartoon character standing in front of me as a live-action person. And that was really neat. Didn't quite capture that with Timmy's mom, but whatever. Timmy's parents had very small parts, very cameo-ish. They were just trying to kick Timmy out of the house the entire time as their 23-year-old son still living with them. Alright, let's see. Oh, Jorgen. Jorgen von Strangle. He was my second favorite performance in this. All the while, he's basically nagging Timmy that he can't keep his fairies forever, he's gonna have to get rid of them at some point, blah blah blah. I am Jorgen von Strangle, I will do this, blah blah. He was as overly acting and hammy as Arnold Schwarzenegger is himself. It would have been nice if they got Arnie, but there's no way they were gonna get Arnie. But, they got a really good, actor for it, and really cheesy, and I could see it. Again, looks like a live-action cartoons, right there in front of me. And Jorgen, by the way, was not an effect. The only fairies that were effects were Cosmo, Wanda, and Poof. I don't know, we don't see any other fairies until the very end. There's a giant fairy council, and they're humans, and all the fairies in the background, I suppose they're fairies, are just cloaked figures. Figures, yeah. So anyway, Jorgen, really funny, really nice. I enjoyed Jorgen. Cosmo and Wanda, aside from being bad special effects, how can I put this? Wanda is really selfish in this movie, and really jerkish, and really not Wanda, until about halfway through. In the beginning half of this movie, Wanda is desperate to keep Timmy. Wanda is desperate to make sure he does not fall in love. She prevents him from falling in love. She actively tries to make him stay a kid. And that's not Wanda. I mean, I get that Wanda wants to keep Timmy. I get that they're the family. But Wanda wouldn't be like that. Wanda understands her role and understands that, from all the other specials we saw about Timmy growing up, Wanda is fully aware of it, and although sad, understands it's her fate. She shouldn't be this selfish jerk that she is in the movie. And I mean, I'd expect it from Cosmo, but not Wanda. Alright, so then Cosmo's Cosmo in the show. Excuse me, Cosmo later in the series. So he's still really annoying. He's still constantly, a complete jerk to Wanda for no reason. A complete idiot, just unlikable as a character. So, he's true to who he is in the later part of the series. Whatever. Poof is Poof. He stays out of most of this movie, thankfully. Ironically, his special effect is the best because it's just a circle, but until the end of the movie, and like I said, I'll get to the end when I get to the end, and in the end, he pisses me off. Alright, what else? The entire movie felt like a fan film. It really did. It felt like it was trying to be a fan film, with the whole cheesiness and low budget. I could easily see it being a fan film, which is why I kind of gave it a little bit of an excuse, in that I didn't hold it to such high standards, because it was trying to appease to fans. It was trying to be a cute little love letter to it, and that's understandable, and that's really sweet that they're trying. They're still trying. Good for them. Cosmo and Wanda were too obvious in this as fairies. There were several scenes outside at a park where they would just appear, and there'd be people in the background, and they don't really do this so much in the show. Cosmo and Wanda appear, sure, but they're always careful not to have them in crowd scenes or really. I know I've done it occasionally, but as a whole, it seems like Cosmo and Wanda would have been spotted in this very easily. At one point, Cosmo and Wanda turn into humans to try and ruin Timmy's date with Trixie. Not Trixie. Wow, Trixie's not even in this movie. To try and ruin his date with Tootie. And I don't know why, and I mean, I could be wrong on this, but for some reason, Cosmo is Jason Alexander. George from Seinfeld. I don't know if it's the actor, but he looks a lot like him and sounds a lot like him. Alright. it's a little bit weird. Although they do have a nice little homage to one of the season 1 episodes where they're like, "Oh, we have legs," and stuff, because that was the first time they become humans. And they do it occasionally on series. They shouldn't really be this surprised by it, but whatever. It definitely felt like a Fairly Odd Parents episode. And I completely skipped because I didn't write it down. Oh, no, I'm getting to it. I got off track with Cosmo and Wanda's personalities, but my favorite character and actor in this whole thing, Crocker. Crocker is exactly as you'll see him on the series. He is such an overacting, nut job that it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. They even have the fairy godparents thing, and they do a cartoony background on him. He sounds like Crocker, he looks like Crocker, he acts like Crocker. He's just, so deliciously nutty. He's great. He is absolutely perfect. I would watch this just to watch his parts, because his parts are hilarious. And I should mention it, because I didn't mention it. Vicky is in this. Very little. She really has nothing to do with the plot. She's just there to be there. I didn't really like her. I don't know. I mean, for some reason, I guess she was right on character. It just kind of looked a little bit too weird on, out there as live action. But, yeah. Alright, so, let's see. Oh, the other thing, before I comment on the ending, the other characters in this, Chester and AJ, we get to see them as adults, obviously, as Timmy is, but they've grown up and gotten jobs. In every scene we see them in, we see them together. AJ is wearing his vest, his patented sweater vest, although he just calls it a vest. And Chester is kind of like a yokel cop, or security guard or something. And, how can I put this delicately? They're really gay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I don't know, the way they were portraying them in this movie seemed really gay. I mean, sure, they're after hot chicks, quote unquote, but they're always hanging around each other. And not only that, but they're also really, really jerks in this movie, and really just annoying. They serve absolutely no purpose to the plot whatsoever, and they're only there to pretty much laugh at Timmy. All they do is berate their friend for, having no responsibilities and stuff. And I get it must be annoying to have a friend like that. But at the same time, all they do in this movie are stand around and are like, wow, Timmy really needs to grow up. Wow, Timmy's such a jerk. Wow, I can't believe Timmy's with a girl. That's all they do in this movie, and it's really irritating. They really shouldn't have been in it at all. Which is kind of interesting considering their role has very much decreased in the Fairly Odd Parents. The series itself, they used to be on a lot, and in later seasons they're not, which really makes you wonder what Timmy's social life has got to be like if he only hangs around with his fairies. Alright, so here it comes, the ending. Oh, I completely ignored the villain. He's just your typical villain. He's not a Fairly Odd Parents character. He's just your typical megalomaniac, whatever, bad guy. Really generic, really forgettable. I guess he had to be there for plot. I guess because it couldn't have been Crocker. I don't know. It would have been better if it was just Crocker. He's really bland, really forgettable. Really could have spiced up his character. He had his funny moments, I guess, but anyway, the ending of this. So here's heavy spoilers. Right. The movie ends with because Cosmo, Wanda, and Poof were captured, the only way for Timmy to save them and stop the evil guy from using their magic is to get rid of them forever, right? I believe they actually used that plot point in Channel Chasers. Anyway, this movie actually did echo Channel Chasers quite a bit, especially considering at the end of it we get to see adult Timmy. But anyway, so the end of it, Timmy has to get rid of his fairies. He kisses Tootie, officially falling in love, quote unquote, which is enough apparently to render him a full-fledged adult and get rid of Cosmo, Wanda, and Poof. Right, so they go back to Fairy World, and Timmy's like, you know what, I got a girl now, I'm gonna be alright, I'm gonna get a job, I'm gonna grow up, Timmy Turner. Title drop. And then, out of nowhere, he's like, but I just wish I could have seen them one last time to say goodbye. And then out of nowhere, Jorgen's like, Timmy Turner! I have a surprise for you. And he's like, yeah, Jorgen, cool your jets, I know they're going. And he's like, no, it's a surprise, you won't believe this. And I'm like, no, they're not going to do it. They're not. Yeah, they're going to do it. They go back to a fairy council, and apparently there's a new rule. If your name is Timmy Turner, and if you've saved the world, and if you're responsible with your fairies and use them only for other people's benefit, then you can keep them forever. Okay, there's a lot of parts in this movie where they kind of bend the rules as we've seen them in the series, but this just seems like an outright kick in the face. I mean, it seems like the perfect ending just for the sake of a perfect ending. Timmy already had the girl and learned that he was going to grow up. Sure, it's sad that he had to get rid of Cosmo, Wanda, and Poof, but life is life. He got to say goodbye, and he got 23 years with them. That's probably more than any other kid. So, yeah. He gets them back, and they... Oh, and Tootie gets to know about them, too. Because Timmy Turner can do whatever he wants, because he's Timmy Turner. And they apparently, the job at the end is that they're going to grant wishes to people in need, or animals in need, or something. And they fly off in their van. Really inconspicuous, you know, a flying van. But, it really feels like a kick in the face. Oh, and because Poof had to irritate me in some way, at the very end, they're like, oh my god, because at the beginning they're like, Poof, you should say your first word. At the very end, they're like, oh my god, Poof's gonna say his first word. And I'm like, I swear to god, if it's sequel, like in Simpsons movie, I'm gonna hit someone. But no, Poof starts talking in Ebonics. For those of you who don't know, that's pretty much ghetto street talk. He's like, yo, man, I gotta get my home door. He doesn't say that, but, why? It's not funny, it's just stupid, it's just this weird gag that's just in there for no reason other than to infuriate me, and I guess give Poof something to do. I don't know, but yeah, it's really frustrating, especially considering if this happens, then how at the end of Channel Chasers do his kids get Cosmo and Wanda? How does that supposed to happen if he's going to keep his fairies forever? It seems like a really cheap way to give Timmy everything he wants, and, you know, to not be depressing, although, I don't know, I thought he had a happy ending going for him anyway, but whatever. Overall, it's worth a watch. You know, it's not particularly great. It's not even really particularly good. But it has its good moments. It really does. It really tries hard, and it really tries to be a nice love letter to all Fairly Odd Parents fans. And if you like Fairly Odd Parents, you should watch this movie. You know, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't like it, I understand. You know, I'm not like, you know, oh my god, you need to go see this movie. I'm just saying it's worth a watch. You know, if you want to bash on it, you can go ahead and bash on it. It's good for that, too, if you really want to take it seriously. But, yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this little review. I'm sorry if you were expecting me to be angry or upset or whatever. I'm just trying to be as unbiased as I can be. Alright, Pie Guy Rules, out.